Hi, my name is Snow Sharpentier, and I am a Level 2 USA weightlifting and CrossFit coach, and today I'm going to talk about the beginner's guide to learning how to snatch. I'm going to be using a light training bar today to teach you the lifts. This is about 15 pounds or 7 kilograms. You can also use a PVC pipe as well. You can find this at a place like Lowe's or Home Depot. This is a 1-inch diameter and approximately 5 feet long, which is plenty to work with to use as a barbell. Real quick, let's talk about the type of shoes that you should probably wear if you're doing lifting. Now, as a beginner, you may not necessarily need to invest in a pair of weightlifting shoes yet. These are the Nike Rebeleos. They can be pretty costly, as well as some other weightlifting shoes that are out there. If you have a pair of soles that are flat, so usually running shoes are a little bit squishier because of the stability needed. So those you may not be able to feel the ground surface as well. So if you have a shoe that's fairly flat, Converse sneakers are a really great budget shoe to start wearing. These are Noble lifters, there are Reebok shoes, Nike shoes, ones that have a very solid and flat base that will help you feel the ground much easier in the lifts. The way that I like to start teaching the snatch is to learn the proper overhead catching position first. So as we know in the snatch, the goal is to bring a barbell from the floor all the way to overhead in one motion. And as the weight gets heavier, we need to be able to support that load overhead. So let's talk about the proper overhead position when holding a bar. Now, as we start learning the snatch, I'm going to have you start taking the bar from the back first and learning to punch from the back, as this is easier to learn with such a small distance to get it from the shoulders to overhead. With the snatch, we are going to be using a wide grip. The wide grip allows for a faster turnover as the bar gets overhead, but it also allows for better mobility as you are receiving the snatch. To find the grip that you will use for the snatch and to hold it overhead, you will bring the bar to the crease of your hips. One way to do it is to raise your knee up to about 90 degrees, and you will find that if the bar, and if your grip is too narrow, that the bar will raise up very high as you are lifting your knees. So you want to find the approximate grip where as you raise your knee to 90 degrees, that bar is not going to travel upwards. Another way to also find that position is if you take your pubic bone and go just above it in the soft area, which is just right above the hip crease. That will put the bar in a spot where it's not going to hit some very sensitive parts. Also, let's talk about the hook grip. So as we're holding the bar, you'll find that if you overlap the fingers, so if you make a peace sign with your index and middle finger and overlap those fingers across your thumb, that's going to help you hold the bar a lot more securely when that bar starts to get heavier and your grip starts to get taxed. So let's practice doing the hook grip. It may take a bit to get used to stretching your fingers enough to overlap the bar. I usually have my thumb sticking out between my middle finger and my ring finger just because the diameter of my hand is a little bit smaller, but you'll find that over time, once you start to practice that hook grip, that you'll get a lot more used to that grip and it'll be a lot more natural to you. Now that we've established the width of your grip, we are going to bring the bar overhead, so hopefully the bar is light enough right now where you don't have to think about muscling it up too much to get overhead. In our overhead position, what we want to focus on is using our upper back and our shoulder blades to hold the bar. What that means is that we are going to rotate and squeeze the upper inner edge of our shoulder blades together to create a stable base for our upper back. Your elbows, if they are starting to point downwards to the floor, will actually rotate slightly back to the wall behind you. Not excessively, you don't want to over-rotate the shoulder, but you want to have just enough of a strong squeeze, like you are pinching a penny or trying to squeeze an orange and make orange juice between the back of your shoulder blades. You will also want to make sure that you're not shrugging your shoulders up to the ears. You do want to allow your shoulders to settle down and create most of the tension and the squeeze through your upper back as you're holding the bar. What we're going to do now is practice just pressing the bar into that overhead position a few times just to feel that strong lockout and that strong squeeze of the shoulder blades. So you're going to stand with your feet about shoulder width apart, and you're going to have your wide grip on the bar. You're going to press overhead, squeezing your upper shoulder blades, squeezing your upper back, and allowing your elbows to slightly twist back so that they're pointed behind at about a 45-degree angle to punch the bar overhead. In terms of wrist position, you want your hand to be positioned upwards like a cup that is holding a bar on the rack. You do not want your wrist to be forward or straight. There is an extension that happens in your wrist so you can press upwards like a waiter holding a platter. Now, if you're finding that this overhead position is very hard for you to get into, it might mean that you may need to work on some mobility and getting that overhead position. A lot of times, if our thoracic spine or upper back is really tight, if our chest is really tight, or we just don't have a lot of comfort in that position, if we constantly spend a lot of time sitting at a desk job and our shoulders are always forward, it may be really hard to find comfort in that position overhead. So again, I still recommend using a light bar to practice finding the overhead position. And if you need some work on mobility, I do recommend looking at the Snatch mobility program that I also have on the website. In the next video in the beginner series, we're going to learn how to push press and push jerk the bar from the back as a way to learn a quick lockout before we learn how to take the snatch from the front. Also, before you move on to the push press and the push jerk video, you might want to take a look at the overhead squat video, which is an essential piece of learning how to snatch. Knowing if you have the mobility in order to support the bar overhead going into a partial overhead squat, or perhaps maybe a full overhead squat, will help you as you are learning to snatch.